Hello, and welcome to Making Sense of It. I am Mona Duncan, and today we're going to be talking about change. Do you ever find change difficult? Well, sometimes it can be, but as we begin to realize that really it's an inside job. So let me pull up the screen and we'll talk about change being an inside job. And did I let everyone in? Sharon, are you in? Yes, okay. I saw your name pop up, but I wasn't sure I said yes. So change is an inside job. And walking about you, I want to change, I want to change, I want to change. Someday I won't work. But once we become to make some definitive choices, it will materialize beautifully. But it can seem a little strange in that our senses, which are for our protection, but our senses, what we see, hear, taste, touch, smell, feel, that kind of stuff, is it seems to be external. I mean, I'm looking through my eyes, but I'm seeing it out here. And it seems to be external, or is it kind of seems to be that way? But it really is, all of our motivation is internal. And as we begin to look at the fact that once we have our success identity in place, then our needs fulfilling behaviors can be mastered easily and gently and in an ongoing needs fulfilling mode. So here change is an inside job. I live, live in Texas, and we live in a rural area, and we have a volunteer fire department. And I was joined it once it very first began to incorporate because it was needed. Stayed with them for about 12 years. And so I was looking at change as an inside job, but looking at kind of anyway. So have you ever heard the moniker back years ago about stop, drop, and roll? That if you ever get too close to a fire and it catches onto your clothing, don't run, which is the natural thing, is to take off running, running, running. Stop and drop right on the spot and roll into the burning area. Suppose that your shirt tail got on fire and you stop and drop and you roll over onto your back. Why? Because it needs that air to. There are three elements that causes a fire, and that is the air and the oxygen, the substance, and anyway. So you need to stop. So in wanting to make a change deep down inside, we need to make a decision with our mind, with our heart, with our whole being. We need to make a decision to stop whatever the habit is, the disconnecting portions is. We need to. And then we drop, we drop our negative thinking that I can't do this, that if only you would change, then I would be okay. We need to drop those negative connotations. We need to drop that negative thinking and then roll. We want to roll out of the fire. And so if someone, if there's discord, having a different attitude is amazing what it can do in helping that discord to be settled. And then roll into insights and action at seeing things differently. And I have here to remind me to tell you the story about kindergartners and numbers. Whenever we established the fire department, and it was back many years ago, and the we were getting out the 911 and the stop, drop, and roll information to all the schools and everything, and would go and make presentations at assemblies and so forth. And in one particular area, there was mainly young children, but they could learn a lot, begin to do. And so I was teaching them about stop, drop, and roll, and to go to the phone and learn how to use it, and punch in 911. And so I had this little toy phone and encouraged the children. You come on up and let's role play. Let's role play. Let's act this out. And so the little kid went up and he picked up the phone. He was real excited. Yeah, I'll do it. You know, I stood back and I would ask him, said, whenever you need help, what's the thing for you to do? And boy, they shouted it out, call 911. Their teachers had already been explaining to them a little bit about that. And so anyway, so here we have the phone. I brought a play phone with me. And the little kid was so excited. He goes up there and he picks up that phone and he just stands there and he had this blank look on his face. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, this child doesn't know his numbers. He doesn't know his numbers. And the teachers, you know, as they began, I said, have y'all gone with numbers yet? Or you don't give up that fluent with it? And the teachers all kind of, oh, yeah, we need to teach them their numbers. And so anyway, my point is that sometimes we are so into the exactness of it that we cannot see the bigger picture. So in looking at what is it we still need to know so that this change can be internal and it can be effective. So the brain, our brain is always working. And I have a picture down here kind of what the brain does. So here is our eyeball. And it has the world inside but we can only see so much. We cannot see the whole world like we can look at a map and see all the countries in the world. But through our brain, we can only see what's directly in front of us. And so as we look at that, and so it's greatly reduced what is actually out there. And so over here on the far left is the real picture that our brain is eyeballing, or that our eyes are eyeballing. But then right here is our brain. And our brain is thinking through and it's taking it. And the picture that comes into our brain that we may remember may be a little bit different from what the actual was sitting there in the breeze that we wanted to go over to and pick the flower or smell the flower. So the brain knows only one sense, and that's now. The brain doesn't know yesterday, or the eyeballs, the sensories of that, doesn't know yet. It only knows what is going on right here and now, what I'm seeing now, what I'm hearing now. The brain thinks in pictures. And Dr. William Glasser made the comment that the picture is total, meaning that the picture that we're seeing, positive or negative, is total in that it affects our four main components of the behavior part, which is the thoughts we think, the actions we take, the emotions that we feel, and the physiology, as into how seeing that picture affects us. Does it soothe and calm, or does it anger, or does it draw together, or does it drive apart? So the brain thinks in pictures, and that picture is total, including all of our emotions. The brain translates verbal into pictures. It doesn't have a typewriter in there that's typing out things to go into our brain or into our long-term storage, but it transfers it into pictures. The brain does not understand color, sound, or the brain apparently it does collect those things. That you can remember sound, color, smells that can help identify with recall. Have you ever walked in somewhere and you smelled something and it took you back? Whether it was a fragrance that was being cooked or whether it was a perfume that someone was wearing, you know, whether it was flowers or something you saw, that instantly it took you back, that your brain went there. And so our brain also associates to multiple details, meaning that in smelling that aroma, it could go to 2 or 3 different past events and bring up those same things. And as we begin to enumerate them to someone else, it becomes conflicted because we're trying to mesh the fragrance that happened in 2020 to the fragrance that happened in 1995 to the fragrance that happened in 2 or 3 different terms or different associations. And then the brain builds on experiences. meaning that it can take those things and put them together so that it can seem like it was one instead of many. And if you are wondering about this, get your family together sometime. Whenever you're talking about this Christmas or that Thanksgiving, and or that birthday celebration or that wedding, yeah, and see how many different ones remember it from different directions and or have mixed it in with other events instead of that one particular event that you're trying to reconstruct. So anyway, back to elements of a fire. It needs energy, which is air. It needs a combustible material, and it needs a heat source. So over here is our behavior car. And the front wheels are the thinking and the doing. And they are the most important. I mean, they're all important, but the back wheels are the feelings and the physiology. And that physiology is the continuous beating of the heart. It's the blood pressure, whether it's going up or down. It's the physiology that keeps us actually moving and living. And so the thinking and the feeling, they lead. And it's more assertive. It's more get out there and, say something, do something. And then the back wheels are passive in that they follow. They follow, which another way to say it is if we're going with just feelings, we may be driving our car backward. And I'm not very good at backing up. I can back into something, but I don't want to back a long ways. But if you're backing up, imagine how your neck gets cranked and you slow down and things are not as amiable as it is driving forward. But as we go with those feelings, it definitely affects our physiology because our brain has a chemical lab in it that is mixing together what we have eaten, what we have witnessed, what our emotions are. It is putting those things together to either give us that feel good feeling that heals and helps us to overcome serotonin, or it begins to give that toxin that gets us angry and frustrated and wanting to fix things. So go for process versus outcome. The process, calm down, think it through before you begin making any actions. Go for process rather than outcome. And yield to rather than oppose the flow of life. Yield to, settle, make a conscious decision versus that one of these days something's going to happen. And then settling, to begin to settle, to realize what I can control, what I cannot control. And to always wear your protective vest, meaning that, well, I've mentioned this before, but many years ago, I came to the realization that I personally was thin-skinned because I was easily offended, that I was thin-skinned but hard-hearted because I really didn't care what I said to somebody or how I hurt them or how, if it was my truth was my truth, if I spoke it out, it was the right thing. But then I had an awakening, and I began to realize that what I really wanted, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What I really wanted was to be thick-skinned and tenderhearted, to be thick-skinned so that those slings and spoken things that hurt and wounded and offended, that it could hit, yes, and yes, it hurt. But you know what? Sometimes it hurt because there was a point to it. Sometimes those things hurt because there's a point to it. And so I wanted to be thick-skinned where those hearts could bounce off, not consider it, but not to be wounded. And so I'm wearing my protective vest, and I see it as part of the love and belonging, and the spirituality is a part of that love and belonging in the Glasser Institute. And so wearing that protective vest and those offenses come, there may be a bruise, but it's not going to kill me. It's not going to break in. It's not going to get in there and cause, cause excessive problems. And so going for the process as to how we overcome, and then accepting, and accepting just that it is what it is. I accept it for what it is. What you say, what they do, it is what it is. And that accepting is accepting it for now, accepting it for right here, right now, that you cannot change. Well, the only person you can change is you. But the more we begin to realize what needs to be changed about the thoughts we think, the actions we take, and the feelings we feel, then the better it is. And so we may be looking at the whole picture, but there's one specific thing that will become prevalent to us. And then believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. You are a person of infinite worth and value. And begin to look at the fact that accepting, and here's the weird thing, but it's beautiful, I think, and that as we accept something, then there may still be things that needs to be done to speak and to organize and to refix and to set and so forth. But once we accept something, it's almost as though it's kind of the sense of, yeah, it's not a big deal anymore, or it's not as big a deal as I was trying to make it. So you will not be motivated to try without the will to carry through. And it's always looking at the fact of going back to the very beginning where we talked about our self-identity, that we can identify the fact that we are strong enough, that we are able to do those things. And so here is the event, and it affects us now. We can look at it previously as though in the past, or we can look at taking it to the future, but that is not effective. What is effective is only to live in the now. That may be a wound from the past. So that's it. And I thank you for being here. And change is an inside job. So the more you consider and think about inside and looking at the process that would bring those changes, and begin to have an I do and I can experience. So thanks for being here, and many blessings to all.